In a cave carved deep into the cliffs of Dunhuang, China, an ancient painting lies hidden beneath centuries of dust, a mural from the Mogao Caves. Known as the Caves of the Thousand Buddhas, among the vibrant depictions of celestial beings and mythic guardians, one figure stands apart, towering, black-skinned, with 4 arms outstretched, one grasping the sun, the other the moon. This being is no ordinary deity. He is Atula, known in Sanskrit as Asura. His name evokes fear, awe, and confusion. He is surrounded by gods, but he is not one of them. He walks among mortals, but he is not a man, with power that rivals the divine and rage that shakes the heavens. He is both protector and destroyer, hero and outcast, a being caught between worlds. Modern audiences may recognize him as a character in anime, games, or fantasy lore, but buried beneath popular culture is a deeper truth. The Asura represent something primal: envy, pride, vengeance, and the ceaseless hunger for justice or revenge. But who was the first of them? Where did they come from? And why were they at war with the gods? In this episode, Parallel Mysteries journeys into the ancient scriptures and cosmic myths of India and East Asia, to uncover the origin, fall, and strange redemption of a race lost in the shadows of heaven. Because sometimes, the greatest threat to the gods comes from within. To understand the wrath of the Asura, we must first understand their origin, and like all ancient powers, their story begins before the world was shaped. According to a legend preserved in early Buddhist and Hindu texts, long before mountains rose or rivers flowed, the heavens and the earth were in flux. In this primordial chaos, divine beings descended to explore the newly forming world. Among them was a celestial maiden, bathing in the cosmic ocean, unaware that something darker stirred beneath the surface. A malevolent spirit of the deep, neither god nor beast, entered her body without consent. From this strange and violent union, she gave birth, not to a child, but to a monstrous being. This was the first Asura, massive, with countless eyes and hundreds of limbs, each one filled with unrelenting strength and rage. Over time, from this monstrous matriarch emerged a line of powerful offspring, among them the Asura king named Rahula, later known in East Asia as Atula. He was no ordinary ruler. His form was too vast for any painter to capture fully: 9 heads, 1,000 eyes, and nearly 1,000 arms. Where he walked, mountains trembled. His mind burned with pride, and his heart, though capable of loyalty, was tainted by uncontrollable jealousy. Despite his terrifying appearance, Atula possessed divine abilities. He could move freely between the heavens and the mortal world. He commanded armies. He was not inherently evil, but he could not bear injustice, especially if he was not the one in power. His emotions were raw, powerful, and dangerously unstable. And so, the Asura came into being, not as a mistake, but as a consequence, a race born from the collision of the celestial and the chaotic. They were creatures of in-between, not gods, not demons, not men. This origin shaped everything that followed: their conflict with heaven, their tragic fate, and the role they would come to play in the endless cycles of war and redemption. The war was inevitable, because beings born from imbalance rarely find peace. With time, the Asura multiplied. Their power grew. Their cities stretched across realms unseen by mortals. And their king, Atula, ruled with absolute might. Despite his terrifying appearance, he sought beauty, refinement, and even alliance with the gods. He admired the celestial beings who lived atop Mount Sumeru, the mythical axis of the universe. And among them, one goddess in particular caught his eye. She was the daughter of a heavenly musician, a divine maiden of unmatched grace. Atula, in a rare moment of humility, proposed marriage. Surprisingly, the union was accepted. Their daughter, Shachi, later known as Ra Shin, was said to be so beautiful that even the king of gods, Sakra, known in Buddhist texts as Indra or Dithich, was entranced by her presence. But beauty, as always, comes with a price. Indra desired Shachi for himself. When he requested her hand, Atula, proud and protective, demanded a condition: that he be allowed to sit beside the gods in their jeweled palace, the Hall of 7 Treasures. Indra agreed, but his intentions were far from noble. He later seduced Shachi through trickery. And when Atula discovered the betrayal, fury consumed him. This was no longer about love. It was about honor. With rage that shook the heavens, Atula summoned his army. Demonic warriors, war beasts, and fire-eyed commanders marched toward the celestial gates. The battle that followed is remembered as one of the greatest mythic wars in ancient scripture, the Asura-Deva War. Indra, though powerful, was nearly overwhelmed. In desperation, he turned to a hidden weapon, a divine mantra taught to him by the Buddha in a time before time. With this sacred invocation, 4 celestial wheels descended from the sky, scattering the Asura forces and pushing Atula back into the abyss. But the war was not over. It would never truly be over. Because pride, once wounded, festers, and the Asura, born of rage, do not forgive. Though their armies were scattered, the Asura did not vanish. Driven underground and inward, they evolved. Over time, their realm split into 4 great clans, each led by a warlord whose very name reflected their nature and power. The first was Banya, meaning forceful strength, towering and indestructible. He served as the military mind behind Asura strategies. It was said his roar alone could collapse mountains. The second was Lashyun Ra, the thunder-shouldered, whose voice echoed like a storm. His massive frame carried the weight of war across dimensions. Legends say he once fought for 12 days without rest, tearing through divine armies like mist. The third was Timajit, the flowering blade. Unlike his brethren, he was refined, calm, even beautiful, yet deadly. He symbolized the allure of power cloaked in elegance. And finally, Rahula, also called Lahaula, the dark shield, a towering being said to be able to block both the sun and moon with a single hand. It was his defiance that often sparked renewed conflict with the heavens. Each clan held distinct philosophies, yet all were united by their shared fate, rejection by the gods and a longing to reclaim lost honor. The Asura realm was no longer merely a battlefield. It had become a world of its own, structured, disciplined, and silently watching the sky. For while the heavens celebrated their so-called victory, the Asura were preparing. Because in myth, war never ends. It only retreats and waits. For generations, the Asura were remembered only as enemies of heaven, warlike beings consumed by rage, jealousy, and pride. And yet, hidden beneath this violent legacy was something far more complex. One day, during a war between worlds, a sacred relic, a stupa representing the Buddha's essence, came under threat. The celestial beings, overwhelmed, faltered in its defense. Unexpectedly, one figure rose to protect it, Lahaula, a powerful Asura lord. With his vast hands, he shielded the stupa from destruction, holding back waves of chaos. In that moment, divinity saw something unexpected in the heart of its enemy, devotion. This act changed everything. Rather than punishment, the Buddha offered Lahaula a role among the protectors of Dharma. The once feared warlord became a Dharmapala, a guardian of Buddhist truth. He was welcomed into the 8 legions of heavenly beings, also known as the 8 classes of protectors, or in East Asian tradition, the Heavenly Dragon Eightfold Assembly, Thien Long Bat Bo. It was a turning point in cosmic history, an ancient enemy transformed into a divine shield. The Asura, despite their past, were now seen as beings capable of redemption, because they fought not out of cruelty, but out of wounded pride and an unyielding sense of justice. And through discipline, devotion, and clarity of purpose, some could evolve beyond the cycle of vengeance. This is the paradox at the heart of the Asura. They were never entirely evil. They were powerful souls misdirected by emotion, beings born with both divine potential and destructive instinct. And it was precisely because of their passion and strength that they were chosen to defend the Dharma from forces darker than themselves. From cursed beginnings to celestial service, the story of the Asura reminds us that even the fiercest enemy, given the chance to reflect, can become a protector. Because in the great war between heaven and chaos, redemption is the deepest mystery of all. Behind the war drums, beyond the divine palaces and burning skies, lies a quieter truth, one that Buddhist philosophy has echoed for millennia. It is not form, lineage, or power that defines a being's place in the universe, but mind. The Asura, fierce, proud, and tragic, exist within the 6 realms of rebirth, known as the 6 paths of samsara. the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth. These 6 realms include the realm of gods, devas, demigods, asura, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. At first glance, the asura realm appears elevated. After all, it exists above the human and animal worlds. Asura enjoy great power, long life, and even celestial pleasures. But beneath this appearance lies torment. The asura are consumed by envy, anger, and a never-ending thirst for recognition. They stare upward at the gods above them, comparing, resenting, fighting. Even in abundance, they suffer. Why? Because their hearts are unbalanced. According to Buddhist cosmology, the realm of the asura is known as a mixed karma realm, a space between virtue and vice. Those who once cultivated merit in past lives, through generosity, bravery, or devotion, may be reborn as asura. But if that virtue was tainted by ego, arrogance, or unresolved rage, the karmic consequence is inevitable: power without peace. In a lesser-known sutra, a tale is told of an asuric king who, in a past life, was a poor woodcutter. One day, a monk appeared at his hut seeking shelter and food. Though he had little, the woodcutter offered everything he had, with joy, not expectation. That act of selfless giving became the seed for immense karmic reward: strength, stature, supernatural vision. But in his next life, having failed to master his inner nature, those blessings became burdens. His strength turned to violence. His desire for fairness twisted into jealousy. This is the spiritual crux of the asura myth. Good deeds alone are not enough. Intention matters, attachment corrupts, and the inability to tame one's mind can drag even the brightest soul into shadow. Unlike the lower realms of animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings, where suffering is absolute, the asura realm is tragic precisely because it holds potential. Asura are not damned, they are delayed, still climbing, still struggling, still redeemable, and that's what makes them so human. In the mirror of the asura, we see ourselves, striving, comparing, achieving, and suffering when we lose sight of contentment. The myth reminds us that no matter how far we rise, if we do not master our mind, we are still trapped, because in the end, rebirth is not just a cosmic rotation of souls. It is the direct reflection of our inner world. And the war we wage out there always begins within. While Buddhist tradition sees the asura as beings trapped in the Wheel of Rebirth, Hindu mythology casts them in an even grander role, as cosmic forces of opposition, eternally entangled with the gods. In ancient Sanskrit texts, the asura were not inherently evil. In fact, they were once divine beings, born from the same cosmic creator as the gods, the great Brahma. Like estranged siblings, the devas, gods, and asuras, anti-gods, shared a common origin. But a schism grew. The devas pursued harmony and divine law, while the asuras, intoxicated by ambition, challenged the very structure of the cosmos. The tipping point came with the churning of the ocean of milk, one of Hindu mythology's most famous epics. Both devas and asuras sought Amrita, the nectar of immortality. To retrieve it, they were forced to cooperate, using the serpent Vasuki as a churning rope and Mount Mandara as the spindle. But when the nectar finally surfaced, betrayal struck. The gods, warned by Vishnu that the asuras would use immortality to unbalance the world, devised a plan. Vishnu took the form of a divine enchantress, Mohini, and distracted the asuras. As she distributed the nectar, one asura, Rahu, disguised himself as a god and drank it. But before it passed his throat, Vishnu severed his head. The body died. The head survived, immortal, vengeful, and still roaming the heavens. This is why, it is said, Rahu swallows the sun and moon, causing eclipses, an echo of divine deceit, endlessly repeated. From that moment, the war between devas and asuras became eternal. It wasn't just a battle of weapons, but of values, karma, and cosmic balance. Neither side could fully destroy the other. Instead, they cycle endlessly: rise, fall, rebirth, revenge. In this endless war, the asura embody resistance, not against good, but against imposed order. They ask dangerous questions. Who decides what is righteous? Who controls immortality? And is divine authority always just? Questions the gods rarely want to answer. From ancient murals in desert caves to epic scriptures of India, the story of the Asura has endured not because of their might, but because of their mirror. They were beings born of power and pain, capable of great honor and great destruction. They stood tall among gods, yet were never fully accepted. They fought for justice, but often lost themselves to vengeance. And in their deepest rage, we see the most human of truths. That unguarded pride leads even the strongest astray. The Asura remind us that power without wisdom becomes ruin, and that righteousness without humility becomes tyranny. Their wars, whether against gods or themselves, echo a greater spiritual teaching, that external conflict is often just the projection of internal imbalance. Envy, wrath, and obsession may not wear armor in our world, but they still conquer minds, families, and nations. And like the Asura, we too wage battles we do not fully understand, often losing our way while seeking justice. But there is another truth hidden in their tale, one of redemption. That even the fallen, even the feared, can rise again, not through conquest, but through self-awareness, through protecting instead of punishing, through listening instead of lashing out. In the end, the Asura's journey is not just myth. It's a reminder that within every soul, divine, demonic, or mortal, lies the potential for both chaos and clarity. And in the silence after war, the universe always asks one question: will you rise by mastering the world, or by mastering yourself?